There's me. There's me. I think we're a little early today, but I'm checking out the sound, so I'm gonna give it a start. Welcome to Smash the Parties. You can see I got a new fancy camera going on here. I'm in the studio, trying to get things set up to look right. So I figured I'd get on to see what you guys think. I got some close-ups. Let's see. I got like some maybe step back a little bit. Or if you really want to see like where I'm working at, maybe we could just do a show you the scene. So look at that. I'm getting fancy, right? This all was existed before. And if you haven't, by the way, I'm Nate. This is Smash the Party. Tonight's nightcap. I do nightcap at the nighttime so I can just ramble and rant, scream about things I don't like. Today I'm going to do things a little different. I'm just kind of in awe at the fact that things are working somewhat. I've even got this fancy, just learned how to do it. Let me see if I can get this working for you. The iPhone has this feature I didn't know about that allows you to kind of zoom in, and it's crazy. So this is my iPhone, as you can see, and it follows me even though nobody's working that camera. That's kind of crazy, right? That's all AI. People are like, "Oh, Apple's not doing anything with AI." And meanwhile, they have like all this crazy shit on the phone that does stuff like that. I was like blown away. Anyway, so as you can see, we've got a couple camera angles, and I'm just like ADHDing on the fact that this is actually working. If you've known, I love trying new stuff at the last minute. So the fact that this is working, someone's gonna message me and say your sound wasn't working the whole time, and I'm gonna be pissed. But anyway, I'm really liking this setup. So what I want to talk about before I'm all like kind of patting myself on the back, before I get all crazy, I do want to mention my topic of the day, which is something I don't really like talking about because it doesn't really affect me, but I do take a stand on it just because historically the position is again a position of power. And so the topic I'm going to talk about is women's health, which is, abortion, women's reproductive care. I am not a specialist. I'm not an expert, but this topic was brought up today because Donald Trump again was on the mic talking about the fact that he alone stopped Roe v. Wade. And so he wants to basically straddle both sides. He wants to take credit for it, but he knows that that's a bad issue for women. And so there's a lot of women I know, and they're friends of mine that are pro-life, and they're probably watching this saying, you're talking about something you don't know. And I agree. I don't even like to talk about it. But when somebody that says that, and again, you know how I feel about Donald Trump, when somebody says that, takes credit for something, it's important to understand the history of what is he taking credit for? Like, what is he really saying? Okay, I was the one, I was the one that got Roe v. Wade taken care of. He's pumping his chest. Today, he went so far as saying that Democrats are pro executing babies. Again, he's got to push the bluster. We know that's not true. Nobody wants to execute babies. So if you're one of his followers, and you're like, oh, well, and you're going to fucking maybe that, just stop yourself, fucking go get checked out or some shit, because it's crazy. No one wants to do that. It drives me nuts because when you take a serious issue like that and you throw in this ridiculous edge case of craziness, which doesn't even make sense, then all of a sudden now you've got to spend all this time talking people off the ledge of crazy. So again, he used that to get his hits. He's an expert at attracting all the attention. But what did he mean, and what's it mean when he says I take credit for getting Roe v. Wade? Well, if you look at the history again, I'm a big systems guy. My day job, I build systems for people, and I tell them how to build complex system and software, and I build them myself, and I do all this stuff, and I have to understand it. So systems are like my life. It's really like how I make my money. And understanding systems it's kind of much easier for me because details are schmeetails. Details are only important when they impact the system, in my opinion. So that's why I'm pretty good at what I do. I understand that concept. Again, I'm really doing a good job of patting myself on the back today. But my point is that this is the philosophy that I come at everything with, pretty much of like, how does it work? What's it mean? Why is it done that way? Isn't there a better way? Who thought of that? Can I break it? Can I hack it? That's what makes me a above average, I would say, excellent software engineer, because I like to break things. I like to see how they work, and I want to understand why. It doesn't make sense for me just for you to tell me that it works that way. Well, when you look at the system of abortion and what that meant, you start to understand what it was and why him taking credit for it is a historical fucking faux pas. I mean, in the moment right now, we may have a movement where this is a divisive issue. It will become something of a laughable issue once we've evolved, because we'll realize, like many of us on this planet right now, that this is completely a woman's health issue. It has nothing to do with anything other than protecting the life of the mother and her having the autonomy. The key word is autonomy to make the decision for herself. No one fucking wants to just go around and execute babies. And every single time I hear the argument from folks that, well, it's going to be used for birth control, that's only when they have nothing else to say. But when you break it down, I've heard them fall in the arguments, well, it's a minority thing, and it's really just a decision, and a decision no one wants to necessarily make, a decision that could be prevented in some cases by some actions beforehand, before sex. Obviously, contraceptives are something to prevent pregnancy, which for some fucked up reason, conservatives are anti that, except in the black community, it seems. It seems like they're all ready to throw them out. That's a whole nother eugenics conversation for later. But, you know, when I think about this, it's another issue where it's like somebody basically saying, I know more than you do, and I'm going to make a decision for you. And quite frankly, it's very common in America to have that dynamic, especially when it comes to healthcare, because our doctors have to, they can say, well, here's what I recommend. We have to call Big Papa Insurance Company, so their nurse can, sitting behind a desk, can tell us whether or not, based on their chart, whether or not it's financially feasible for them to pay that claim or give us that medicine. So we already have a paternal middleman in our healthcare. So it's not hard to think of another middleman just in when it comes to this specific issue. But when you start to look at the history of it, it's crazy how the history of abortion and kind of how the activists kind of came to the conclusion that they needed this autonomy. I mean, there's racial components to this too. And I'm not talking about the eugenics side of it. I'm talking about the kind of patriarchy overtaking of gynecology. So for a long time, women were the midwives, and there was a system of midwife where a lot of indigenous folks, a lot of black women, even during the slave time, post-slavery, they were the specialists. These were the folks that championed a lot of the tools and methodologies, believe it or not, in America. If you look at the history of, you know, midwifery, if you call it, whatever, doulas or whatever, you have this history where there was a lot of, you know, the lowest of the low were the ones that were doing all the hard work. And eventually then there became a practice. And what happened was men pushed out women from the practice of gynecology. Like, it was become midwifery and all the other things, all the other expertise that had been built over the years from these passing down this knowledge, then became obsolete because men came in and they said, well, this is a profession. Now we're going to do it this way. And so they actually pushed women, including black women and indigenous women who were the specialists, out of that mix. So it became kind of low rent. It became low rent to use midwifery. And then, of course, when you have a powerful lobby, they began legislating midwife, you know, all these positions out. And I'm not saying that they didn't have, you know, an academic education is beneficial, but certainly when this is all we had, and we've been birthing children for, you know, our entire existence. And all of a sudden you have this specialty that's been passed down over generation. And all of a sudden men come along and just say, fuck it. You know what? You guys don't know anything. Throw all that knowledge. What's interesting, if you even look at the history of like washing your hands, some of that was actually done prior to even knowing what the reasons for doing it were. So, you know, there was this whole thing where, you know, a white gynecologist decides to finally wash his hands, and all of a sudden birth rates go down. That's a story. You can Google it. But a lot of those things were kind of known things that you didn't do certain things while you were in the process, that they didn't even know about sterility. They just knew that, hey, if you do these things, these other things can be more complicated. They didn't know it was germs or whatever. So all that knowledge, they might call it hokey. Why do you guys wash your hands? These people do all these rituals before they go in. Well, these rituals that they were doing basically lowered the mortality rate. And I'm not saying it was great having midwifery. We didn't have the technology, but my point is that when you look at the history of women's health, you actually have kind of this organic mechanism to facilitate and make it easier for women that's coming from women helping women. Men come in, say, nope, that's not enough, especially because the folks that were becoming the specialists were a lot of minorities. And of course, who wants them around at that time? And so men came in and basically kind of lobbied and legislated their way into it and essentially pushed women out of it, including, obviously, women didn't have any kind of say back then in the 1800s, when they started doing this. So fast forward, and the 60s is kind of where women were like, what the fuck is going on? Like, all right, we just came out of war, all our men are coming back, they're all fucked up, they're beating us and shit. And the 50s, all that bullshit and crazy, everything's right. We're kind of sick of it. So we'd like to get credit cards, we'd like to buy a house, we'd like to do things that you probably didn't even know you couldn't do in the 60s. But women couldn't do anything unless they had the signature of their man. So again, up until the lifetime of, maybe not some of my listeners, but for many of my friends and people in my era, we're old enough, or know people that were old enough to know that there was a time when women were just kind of signatory, like trophy wives. That's, you were just like part of, I need to go out and find a wife because that's kind of like a mule that I can have sex with and have kids with, but ultimately that's the person I need to find to take care of the home. And so this was the philosophy, and women are kind of like, fuck this is annoying, it's stupid, I'd like to go out and do my own. Of course, conservatives were like, oh my God, it's going to destroy the American family and everything else. Now, you could make an argument that making women go to work and definitely made childcare difficult or different, but what's the difference? I mean, that's a whole nother subject. There are real implications of women going to work that one could argue, but to suggest that, women don't have the autonomy, or there's no role for them, or if a woman doesn't want to be a housewife, which apparently was the only thing they were thought of for a long time, then they didn't have choices. So women were fed up. By the way, I'm totally butchering shit. I know that. I'm probably not giving timelines. I don't care. The context is there. You can Google shit. None of this shit's I'm not making this up. I just don't know the exact sequence of events. But I know that there was a time when women weren't given the same rights. I know it was the 60s. I think it was 1970s was when they were allowed to get a credit card, for Pete's sakes. Voting came obviously before that, but voting came later as well. So we know that the whole kind of struggle for women to get equality and get that autonomy has been something that's only kind of changed in recent years. And unfortunately, if you look at the reason why women were fighting for their own freedom, was because of the patriarchy coming in. It actually became kind of basically a class thing, because now all of a sudden you couldn't, there were times where you could actually go online you could go out and find remedies for kind of home abortions, where it was herbs and things that they could induce it. It was, they called it the quickening. Before the baby had the quickening, you were allowed to have an abortion. This is before we had all these mechanisms for today, but essentially it was before you heard the baby. Now, I'm not saying that was right or wrong. I'm not even talking about the timing, but it was a well-known kind of issue that wasn't talked about like, oh, wow, it's a moral issue. No one's out there looking to say, all right, I can get rid of your baby really quick and we have the best. This was something that was a necessary evil, or an issue. I don't want to call it evil. It was a necessary procedure that would have to happen depending on the whether the woman wanted to or not, or whatever health issue they had. And so there was always some kind of weird legislation around it. By the way, I'm not suggesting that it was better back then. It's just interesting that they thought of it as there wasn't this kind of moral uprising about it as much as there was today. Now, maybe there was, but it was a small pocket. I can't imagine there's a lot of people out there that are like, let's just line people up and abort every single thing. Now, that sounds weird to me, but that's the way they paint it. That's not the way it should be painted. It should be painted as a health issue and more as a something that's between a doctor and a woman. All right. So anyway, let me go back to kind of the statement that I was, where I started this whole thing, which is I'm the one that got rid of Roe. And so what does he mean by that? He's kind of saying like, I'm the guy that's rolling back women's rights. It didn't really lead into what that meant, but women now are looking for their own autonomy. They also want control over their own body, which makes sense. Meaning, hey, look, if I'm raped or some man inseminates me, I'm not necessarily having to go to term with that because maybe that was a foray, maybe the condom, whatever the issue is. I don't want to have a child with this man. I have that right. I don't see any way that you can say to somebody, no, you're now tied for the next 9 months when we have all the mechanisms and the procedures and all the ways to prevent that from happening, especially when you talk about all the fucked up shit. And I don't have any kids, but I see you motherfuckers with your kids. I swear to God, I know this is awful, but some of you should have probably not had some kids. I shit you not. And you're probably one of them. Like, think about how much of an asshole your kid is. Think how much of a shit they are. That's because of you. We can't go back and abort your kid, unfortunately, but wouldn't it be nice if we knew some of the asshole parents? We could just say, nope, nope, nope. Awful, right? I don't have that right, and I should never have that right to say, oh, you should or shouldn't have a child, right? It's really offensive what I'm saying. It sounds offensive. What do you mean you're telling me when I can? You're going to tell me when I have sex too? Yes. In my system of complete control, we need to know when you're inseminated. If you actually look at the legislation in Texas, no shit. I don't see any other way other than measuring and asking the person, hey, when did you get pregnant? And when did you do the pregnancy test? When did you have sex? Now we'll reverse engineer to see if we can then take you to court, get our $10,000. You get paid $10,000 if you report somebody that's had an abortion or someone that's looking to get an abortion. You, as a vigilante, can report their abortion and get paid for it. So my question when they write that law is, okay, now we have to measure this shit. So how are we going to measure? Are we going to go around and ask people when they had sex? Are you sure? Was it 3 days, 4 days? Because this, if you get on that line where you're right on the line where it's like illegal, I mean, this is mind blowing. We're creating problems to create problems to create problems. If we just would back the fuck off and say, look, no one likes abortion. Let's make it so that it's the safest fucking thing in the world. It's easy. There's absolutely no shame. And it's something that's confidential between a woman and her doctor, period. That's it. That's it. Now, if you're married and your wife and you're trying to get pregnant and she's doing, that's a whole nother subject. But truthfully, something else is happening there. If she's going out and she's trying to impregnate you and she's going out and aborting it, you're not the thing for her. So that's a whole nother subject, but she should still have the right to decide how the next 9 months are going to be for her life. Mind blowing to think there'd be something that I could reverse that I really didn't want to do, but everyone says, nope, the law says you can't. What do you mean? It's safe. I can do this thing. Everything can be fine. I'm really not doing anything to change the course of humanity in any capacity. Not hurting anyone. Stop fucking suggesting I'm hurting someone. Don't even go down that stupid fucking path. So you're telling me now, all of a sudden, now I have to live with this thing. Live with this, or it's going to cause this issue. And again, by the way, I'm not even suggesting health is the only reason someone should be able to get an abortion. I'm actually saying, do they want to carry to term? That's it. That's it. Nothing else is on my plate. Nothing else is actually, none of it's on my plate. It's literally just this. The only reason I'm speaking of it, it's weird how dudes align on this fucking topic. It's so fucking bizarre. I've got family members, love them to death. And I say that with tongue in cheek. I don't want anyone to die. I say the love part. They're my brothers and families and sisters, all that stuff. But to think that you actually, as a male, have a fucking opinion that's so strong, you're going to create a whole lifestyle around this fucking goddamn thing that has nothing to do with you. And now you got Roe v. Wade. And so what now? What's the next fucking thing you're going to oppress? I mean, to me, it's such a weird thing to say, I know better for you, even though I have no idea what it's like to be you. Same thing with the trans thing, same with anything with anybody that's punching down. And to me, it sounds like you're punching down if you're trying to control a woman. You're saying, look, we have more power than you do over your own body. That's the whole thing. And if you can't understand that, then you're probably not a woman, or you've probably not been marginalized in any way. So why do I give a fuck about it so much? Because it's one of those wedge issues that I wish we could get past, that would just be like, all right, look, no one likes it. Let's all agree that when this happens, maybe it's not the best thing that could have happened, but let's make sure that when it does happen, it's a pleasant experience. It's everyone's fine and everyone's happy and healthy, and they get all the mental health they need, whatever they need to do this thing to get past this. I'm okay with, because the alternative is to bring people into this world, this fucking world that we have, and do the things that we do to them with in an unloving parent, or whatever. You could say, well, but an adoption. Stop. We're way beyond that. I'm saying this is not a child. It's part of somebody's body, and they've decided they don't want to deal with it anymore. That's it. I don't see how that's offensive when you're a dude and you're watching this and you're just getting fucking angry, sitting on your fucking chair going, Jesus Christ, I don't care, fucking Buddha. It's about autonomy. And when Donald Trump stands up there and says, I'm the person that got rid of Roe, he's literally saying, I'm the one that's going to fucking commandeer and control people. I'm the one that's pro, let's roll back things that allow people to have that individual freedom. People get all upset about it right now, but I guarantee you, when women were fighting for this stuff back in the time, they'd be the women that were out there marching are looking down and they're sad as fuck, because they understand, look, you inch away at that autonomy, they're come for the next thing. I mean, The Handmaid's Tale is, a fable of all fables about what the repercussions of that incremental, say, fuck this, allow this. Now they have complete control. Now, essentially, you're just literally a package to deliver a baby in at the behest of a couple. I mean, we're going Handmaid's Tale. What the fuck you think that show is about? Why do you think it's so twisted? It's taking all your crazy thoughts about your belief that you know more about this woman's body, and they're rolling it into, this is what's going to happen. This is how men will react when they're limited on their ability to procreate, and there's other people that can. They will commandeer that resource because it's just a resource to them. It's not a person, because we've already decided that person has no autonomy. So I can just decide now, since you're only a vessel, now I want to use that vessel with my wife. And I mean, it's pretty brutal and gruesome, but you got to understand that's the whole premise of that whole shit. They're making fun of your dumb ass for that stupid, archaic, patriarchal methodology, thinking, oh my God, we're saving a child. You're actually rolling back to the time when women were like fucking pawns. That's what you're doing when you're promoting that. All your moral quandary and all your bullshit standing on today ignores history again all the time. In fact, that seems to be the fucking motto here, is that we just like to say whatever history is, fuck it. Whether it be, the history of race relations in America, fuck that. We don't need to learn from. We'll just go by what we know today. And today I feel this way. How stupid is that? How can you imagine operating that way and just ignoring problems in your personal life and your financial life or whatever it is, just acting as if history didn't matter? Oh, last year every time I spent $10,000 a month in the bar, just seemed like things were tough for me. Next year, I don't know what it is. Every fucking year. I mean, it's completely idiotic, and that's what you're doing. You're literally ignoring the struggle to get here on the reasons why it exists. I understand you don't like it, so why don't you work to say, hey, look, let's make it easier for these folks instead of standing outside and shaming them, creating this shame and guilt and this whole alternative, and then creating this whole angst, horrible fear-based counseling for these folks that are trying to figure out what to do at this point in their life. You've then injected yourself as a alternative, an unhealthy alternative that just does shaming and guilt shaming to get folks to put the babies into the mix so that you and your fucking flock can adopt them. That's what you say. I'm pro adoption. I'm adopted. Look at me. I turned out perfect, right? Everything's great. So adoption's fine. Shut the fuck up. I turned out great. But I don't think that that saying to somebody, you know what, we have adoption out here, so you're 9 months. Yeah. No, we go back to that individual has that autonomy, just like they had autonomy. They should have had autonomy when they consented, and they should have autonomy what they want to do with what's growing inside their body. Period. End of story. So my only reason for talking about this is not because I am at risk of getting pregnant or worried about having a late term abortion or worried about getting shamed. I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not even having any kids anymore. I have no skin in the game other than this topic sucks the fucking oxygen away from every other topic. And I'll get into this down the road, but one of these, what they call them wedge issues, because they motivate people to get off their ass and vote. So because you don't give a fuck about everything, when I say I'm going to murder babies, the Democrats are going to murder babies, that gets you off your sofa so they can continue to fleece you in every other fucking way. Slap you in the face, punch you in the back, rob the future of your kids, give you a shitty education. All that doesn't matter, but you got off your fucking ass because fucking babies. You stupid fuck. You're not even going to have any more babies. You probably shouldn't have any more babies. Why don't you stop fucking voting, getting off the sofa for this dumb fucking issue? That's why I keep talking about this issue, because it's so stupid. It's so easy. Doctor, woman, done. Me out of this topic. Out of it. Done. Just it. No legislation. Just do whatever that is to make them safe. And whatever that relationship has to be, that women can get the treatment they need when they need it for this issue, then I'm good. And we can talk about like homeless people, talk about the fact that people are starving in this fucking country, the richest country in the world. Talk about the fact that why do these rich people need 4 fucking mega yachts when we got people living in Ben's Park, like in fucking sheets and shit. We can't talk about that because you know what? You'll get off your ass because of abortion and your fucking hillbilly fucking Confederate flag. You'll fucking get off the ass, beat your wife at home, and go vote for the pro-life candidate because that's it. I'm not saying all of you. I'm not saying every person, but these fringe topics, and you know you're the one issue voter, the one that does, I'll vote for every other issue. I don't care about that. It's only about abortion. You're a one issue voter. So this one issue is they're playing you. Donald Trump, literally the guy that's probably had more abortions than all my 10 viewers combined, is standing up there and you're like championing this motherfucker. Don't you ever have any self-respect or dignity to say, you know what? Maybe I'm the sheep that everyone's talking about. Maybe Nate's not just a fucking sweaty, crazy person. Maybe I need to rethink why this issue is the one issue that gets me off my ass when all the other issues I don't give a fuck. And then you're simping for Elon Musk and you're simping for fucking Jeff Bezos and you're like, ooh, yeah, don't tax him. No, I might be both sides do that shit. So, all right. So look, I have a real problem when somebody says, you know what? I'm taking pride in the fact that I'm rolling back human rights, and women's rights are human rights, and reproductive rights, that's a human right issue in my opinion. And I didn't really even get into the racial component of abortion and how that was used on both in the pro and against, and blacks are being used as pawns in that, and how all the marginalized groups are being used as pawns when it comes to abortion. And you have these people, everyone knows, you say kill babies. Of course my ears perk up. No one wants to kill babies. But that's the language we've decided to use. That's the language some folks have decided to use, which just completely is a conversation ender. On my page, I'm pretty sure I made it so you can't write murdering babies. You can test it. I don't know. I know at one point I was like, I just went through and I tried to pick all the keywords I could think of that would that some wacko right-wing pro-lifer would come in here and say, oh, you baby murderer and libtard, whatever. But I mean, when somebody starts out the conversation about that, like Donald Trump did in his speech, and suggests that the other side is killing babies and waiting till they come to term, come the fuck on. Like, where's the fucking adult? Like, that's the biggest thing I think I'm realizing as I get older. I'm probably, because I don't have any kids, maybe it took me a little longer to grow up, but I'm just sometimes I'm waiting for the fucking adult. And I'm like, there's nobody's going to stop this fool. Nobody. The emperor's walking around naked, his dick's swinging in my face, and everyone's just like, yeah, everything's fine. Come on, guys. Come on. Stop. Your friend that's fucking Trumper, tell him to fucking go fuck off and say, dude, I love you, but you're crazy. Like, we got to stop this. We got to stop. I'm not saying cut off all the fucking Trumpers. I did, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, because Christ, I've cut some people off that I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't. It hurts once in a while. I just open up their feed and say, oh, yeah, oh, good, you're good. Okay, you're good. But I mean, what does that say to me? It says this person has poor judgment, poor character judgment. What do they value in life that they would put all the things that we have in this country aside to say, you know what? I'm going to believe this fucking charlatan. Hold on. That one. So, I don't know. Gets me fired up. So I'm going to wrap today. I know I probably went a little bit more hot than I wanted to. It just, I popped a couple articles today when I was Googling, like, what's the history of, when he says Roe v. Wade. So I did some research. And of course, you get to the ACLU website, and then you get the Planned Parenthood website. Of course, they're going to be pro-choice, or, it's between a woman's. Of course, they give a really nice history that's going to help articulate some of the racism and some of the other class warfare that went on. That's one perspective. I'm open to other ones. I just don't see how the history that is so easy to the reason these organizations exist is because they came from that history. They came out of this oppression. So Planned Parenthood is just like shaking their head every day. You say Planned Parenthood to fucking right-wing people and they lose their shit. What's interesting is when I was younger, I didn't know about Planned Parenthood until some of my friends that I knew from the city, black friends, told me about Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood did more to educate me on sex than I learned in fucking high school, for Christ's sake. And I grew up in a very conservative place where Planned Parenthood was a bad word, but I encountered Planned Parenthood, thankfully, in my young age, because I needed to for certain things. I'm not saying I had an STD either. I was crazy though. So, as crazy as it is, like, I feel like that is a core problem that people don't even know about people that could use Planned Parenthood, people that need health issues or have health issues. By the way, I didn't have any insurance. Planned Parenthood didn't care. They just did everything. You need a checkup, sure. So, we hate on these organizations that come from a place of protecting people's autonomy, protecting people's power, giving them choices, hiding them, preventing them from having to be shamed. That's what Planned Parenthood was to me. Before I even knew that was the place where people did abortions. It was a place where I'm like, all right, cool. Because I'm living this alternative, extra promiscuous lifestyle, I have a place to go to get checked up. So I was a safe person, as much as I was safe back then. I want to get into my disgusting 20s, but I'll say that, I think the notion that Donald Trump's going to kind of champion and run and campaign on being the person that's roll back. I mean, I think it's a major miscalculation. I think that if people are educated, and I'm hoping our baby boomers and all the old folks that were there during that time come out screaming like, dude, this is the guy. Yes, he's responsible. He needs to go. And everybody that kind of signed on that train needs to go as well, because this is what they're doing is, and you look at a system where it says, hey, we now have to measure, we have to know when you had sex, we need to know when you got pregnant, and then we can determine you're no longer you're just part of society's kind of production scheme. If you're a woman and you're pro-life, just know that you're suggesting that you don't have any control over your own body and you can't make decisions for yourself. That's fine. You probably married a conservative man that agrees with you. I just don't know if women out there who have kind of, come on their own and understand what it feels like to be free and autonomous and not under the thumb of a man agree with you. So, I mean, maybe you need to check yourself. Do you really have the freedom that you think you have? I mean, I know a lot of conservative women that are totally fucking unhappy. They're doing it just because their husbands have put the thumb on their fucking neck. So, I mean, that's the kind of oppressive world we'll live in when we have men and entities that are, financially incentivized to make decisions for you. That's what's going to happen. You're going to be, what if, think about this. What happens if there was a scare where women couldn't have babies anymore? And all of a sudden we do have a select amount of females that can have babies. All these plastics that we're eating, now all of a sudden there's only a certain amount. Well, guess what? We already have legislation that says you're just a commodity. So let's roll out the Handmaid's Tale. I mean, you're the only survive. The human race needs the survival. So you are no longer you no longer have autonomy. I mean, these dystopian nightmares. The older I get, the more I realize they're written from folks that just take these concepts and they take them to the nth degree. Induction reasoning, or if you want to call it, like, it's just like, you see what n plus infinity equals. And let's say what it looks like n plus 1 is what it looks like today. Well, let's just say what the fuck happens over thousands of years or 200 years or maybe 50 years. The side effects are where these dystopian novels come from. Just take a conservative concept, and I guarantee you can find a dystopian nightmare about it, or a dystopian novel about it. Some novel that talks about the end of the world that's written from somebody observing the fact that this philosophy is going to be the end of us because it takes away control, it takes away autonomy, it puts it in a groupthink, it gives complete control to one entity. I mean, all these things are just kind of the seeds that are used to write and plant a dystopian forest, if you will. All right, I'm done when I start trying to be flowery. So, all right, so today is Monday. Just want to wrap with that. Donald Trump, he's responsible for Roe v. Wade. I hope it's the thing that everyone remembers and we kind of hold him to account for it. I hope that women step up. I really don't claim to be an expert in women's health. I do have a strong opinion that I'm pro-choice, but I'm not going to sit here and argue that I'm like the most pro-choice person ever, like, to ever exist in the world. I'm just saying the issue isn't my issue. And I just believe that women know best. I know if I was a woman and I had a vagina and boobs, wow, that would be amazing. No, I'm not trans. I'm not looking transition, but I just think that I wouldn't want people to have control over me. And if somebody then planted a seed in me and I decided I don't want it, I would feel weird to say, oh, I got to check the law to see what I have to do next. I don't know, folks, but maybe I went into the absurdium where I'm actually disproving my own point. Who knows? All I know is I love to not talk about it. I know how much of an issue it is for folks. I wish it wasn't the issue that got people off their ass. And it is, unfortunately. I wish people would care more about, a safety net and maybe our retirement and maybe our public health care and maybe why housings and maybe the fact that Black owns fucking 95% of fucking residential in this fucking country. Those are things that will affect you too. Not Sally Jane, 16, who got inseminated from her brother in Alabama, who's now got to go to fucking Nevada and live a fucking nun life or whatever because she's shamed out of the family. Which I know I'm totally throwing all kinds of tropes and awfulness at you. It's awful. I'm not even suggesting that's the reason people have abortion. I'm just saying, like, when it happens to you or when the issue comes to your house, I think people think differently. And so who knows? But if you had, a pregnancy where it's like you got to choose between your daughter and yourself or the baby, or a fetus that has not been born, it's just like, what are you going to do when that's illegal? You don't have a choice. You don't care because you just fucking walk the edges of saying, oh, you know what? This can't happen to me. So I think I'm morally going to just impound my idea to everybody. You don't think it's going to happen to you. That's another it's another thing that happens all the time with conservatives that, like, they'll be pro one way until it happens to them. And how many Republican congressmen have had abortions? They're totally pro-choice when it comes to their own, kind of procreation. They're complete control of their own autonomy. In fact, they're like, oh, you got to get an abortion. Oh, I'm a congressman. Oh, okay. I mean, this is the world we live in. So if you're going to be stupid enough to believe that the folks that are legislating aren't doing the same things and getting abortions in safe ways and avoiding shame, you're fucking nuts. But I will say that hopefully Donald Trump will continue to campaign on this issue. And I hope it fires up women. I hope they read. Women don't understand it, and maybe they're on the fence. Read a little bit about the history of women's reproductive rights and learn about the fact that it was something that a lot of women championed as being the way that they could get autonomy, and it led to a lot of other things that has helped. Women still aren't getting fucking equality today. I mean, they still don't get the same pay in Hollywood, and even the rich folks don't even get the same pay. So, this is one of those issues that Donald Trump is out there championing, and I think it's going to come back and bite him. I hope it does. And it's not my issue. I vote. I'm not a one issue voter, but if somebody's pro-life, I mean, it's hard for me to think about a reason that they have to, other things have to align. It's not an issue for me. It's not. I mean, abortion's not something that I think about all the time. I'm not a woman. I'm not. So it's not a big issue. So if someone was pro-life, it wouldn't be a deal killer if they were like, you know what? I'm pro, everyone gets health care. I believe in social safety. And by the way, I'm pro-life, but I don't really believe, in fact, I believe that it's between a woman and their doctor because it's a reproductive issue. Then I'm fine. I mean, they got to clarify that. It's hard to find someone who's going to have a pro-life stance and also believe that that's a woman's health issue. Or if they are, then that won't legislate. I don't know. So I'm almost kind of walking myself into being a one issue voter, aren't I? I mean, it's a deal killer issue, I would say. I mean, just because it coincides with how they think about everything else. I don't think it's possible to think, all right, I'm pro-life, but I also completely believe in women's autonomy, and I believe that a woman should have that decision and make that between her doctor. If you can find me a pro-lifer that says that and wants to, basically support policies that say that, I'm going to tell you, okay, cool, pro-life, pro-choice, all marketing terms. Yeah, this guy gets it. This gal gets it. Okay, that's it. So you can say pro-life, but I also believe that a woman should have complete control of her body, and that when she comes to medical issues, that her and her doctor should be the only ones that are involved. Done. All right, cool. You're pro-life. Cool. Call yourself pro-Jumanji. I don't care. I don't care, because you're saying the things and you're doing the things, you're supporting the things that are going to lead for women to have autonomy. I think I did a whole stream or live thing about the fact that marketing, liberals and Democrats tend to fail miserably on marketing because, look, pro-life sounds way better than pro-choice. What, are you choosing to kill the baby? No, I'm pro-life. You can't really make that bad. So, you know what? Let's throw out the marketing terms and say, I don't care if you are like, oh, I love babies. I believe all babies should live and they're going to go to heaven. But you also say, yeah, but I'm pro-life of the woman too, and she deserves to have that be between her doctor and her. Okay, bing, ding, 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 ding. We're on the same page, right? So marketing, schmarketing. Democrats could always improve. Republicans are masters of it. They always get the good stuff. And so we'll just say that it's about how you think. All right, let me see. What else do I want to cover? I think that's it. I got a little fiery today. Look, if you're not really impressed with my hold on a second here. Look at this. If you're not impressed with my new getup, that's fine. Not everyone is. But I am. I wanted to say a couple things before I wrap. I'm kind of winding down. So first of all, I have guests coming. I told you that. If you are one of the guests and you're watching, this is not going to be the forum. Do not fret. You are looking probably at more of a standard round table. We got round tables in the studio. We got all kinds of places. So do not be scared. I do not plan on after hours being completely actually political at all. It's just going to be fun, and it's going to be, you guys can see me maybe when I'm not mad, or maybe I get mad about other shit, but I want to open it up to other folks, and people are excited about it. And I've got people that are planning on coming on. And so I think as I try to incrementally get back into this and improve it every week, I'm going to try to give you guys updates. And as you can see with all the fancy schmancy whiz bangery. I've got multiple cameras. Look at that. I've even got one right in my face. I've got cameras. I'm just excited about it. I don't know why. I'm easy to please. So, one last little piece. I will be starting up a blog again. If you don't know, my smashtheparty.com was hijacked from me. I will get it back someday. Fucking bullshit. Mistake, Amazon, yada yada. Me, ADHD, fucking sucks. The only domain I've ever lost in my life. But I will be getting that blog up soon, and I'll probably just open up a Substack and something, and just, commandeer a domain and just throw it up there. The reason I like the content and the writing content is because it kind of gives me an opportunity to put my thoughts into some coherentness as opposed to just kind of this ramble. As well, it's always nice to come back to those little blogs that I wrote and see, like, was I on the mark? There's one that I wrote about Joe Manchin that, like, I kept on just rehashing. It was so fucking good. And not my writing was good. It was just so on point. So I will get back to that. Look, we're going back to full-blown content creation shit. And we're going to go back with a vengeance this time. And I know last time I had, the shitty little live stream had about 120,000 reach. And I know for a fact that I can get it back to there over the next probably 2 years. But I love this and I'm excited. I literally am back to waking up and looking forward to streaming and trying to think about what I'm doing. As long as I don't get hung up on the technical stuff, we'll keep going. So tune in tomorrow. I'm going to probably wait till end of this month, but YouTube needs a video every week. TikTok needs a TikTok every day. Everything else will be fine if I just post content and do my normal dance. So if you haven't followed me on TikTok, please do that. Follow me on YouTube. I think I only have 30 subscribers. For some reason, it's allowed me to stream to YouTube, though, so I don't care. As long as I'm streaming, I'm fine with it. But I got to get to 1,000 on TikTok. I'm probably going to do like a May, June blitz on TikTok and just crank out content on TikTok to see what the algorithm can do, just to get to 1,000. But I need you to follow. Look, I have enough people in my network that if everyone fucking I knew would just follow me, I'd be fine. So just do it. It's not that much. It's like you're just holding out. For what reason? I like all your shit. I like shit I don't care about. I do it. I support it. Just fucking do it. Literally, people in my network. I'm going to get beyond this network eventually. I understand it. But like, you guys are in on the ground floor. Give me a like, a subscribe, a share, something. Anyway, so I think I'll wrap with that. Let me see if I can get one close up. I'm so that's crazy. All right. I think that's it. We'll be back 10:30. Look, Monday through Thursday, like clockwork, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go to I'm Blue in the Face Monday through Thursday, 10:30. Check it out. Subscribe. I appreciate it. We'll be back. Oh, hold on a second. I got to end with a cut.